You're listening to CFDb Interviews, and we're here today with Erin Bethea, the leading actress from The Redemption of Henry Myers. Erin, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. Do I have permission to start recording the interview?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do want to say that we had the privilege of watching The Redemption of Henry Myers just last night and was so impressed with it. It was an amazing film. We gave it a 5 stars, and we'll have a review on it sometime next week coming up on the database. So first of all, I want
Oh,
you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your role within the Christian film industry.
sure. Thank you so much for the kind words about the film. I appreciate that. Um, so I started off in the film industry, sort of just as a, complete fluke. I had always wanted to do theater. That's what I studied in college. I fell in love with it in high school. And live performance is sort of where I always saw my career going. And but then my hometown of Albany, Georgia, and my home church of Sherwood Baptist Church decided they were going to make this little movie called Facing the Giants. And so actually on my way between driving from college in Alabama to my first live acting performance professional job at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, I stopped back through South Georgia and shot one little tiny scene in Facing the Giants. I had like 2 sentences as a sportscaster.
That's great.
And yeah, and it was just sort of, oh, I'm going to be in this like, nifty little movie that my church is going to make. And it was silly. It didn't at that point feel like I was making a career choice, and but then of course, Facing the Giants went on to do so much more than anybody could have ever imagined. And then I had the opportunity a number of years later to do my next film appearance, which was definitely a career choice at this time, playing the lead in Fireproof.
Definitely.
And yeah, unbelievable. So it was really at that point that I fell in love with film. I had never thought about film. I had especially never really thought about Christian film because there wasn't a
Right.
whole lot of Christian films being made that were really any good or getting seen widely.
Right.
At that point. So, but yeah, that's sort of where it all started. And since then, I've been really blessed to work on projects that, that I'm pretty proud of. I did a film called Amazing Love, where I got to star opposite Sean Astin, who's a tremendous actor, and then did a film called This Is Our Time, which was a Pure Flix film.
Loved that film.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Me too. I really think that film was so special and appealed to a sort of age audience that a lot of Christian films miss.
Yes.
Which is that young single adult. So yeah, just really honored to do films like that. And then The Redemption of Henry Myers came along, which is my favorite film to date. I've done over a dozen feature films now, and that one is definitely the most fun one I've ever done, just because of the period and all that. So that's sort of my background.
Well, that's exciting. Does that mean that you're not wanting to do anything live anymore, or is that still back in your mind as a dream?
No, I always tell people that, the best way to explain it is theater and live performance is my first love. It's that butterflies in your stomach, exciting, exhilarating feeling that you get when you have that first love, when you're first falling in love. But film is my true love. It's who I want to settle down and be married to.
Nice.
So if I can settle down and be married to film, but every now and then go back and have those first love feelings, then that's the best of all worlds.
That is a great analogy. I could totally understand what you were saying, and that made so much sense. So, can you tell us a little bit about Redemption of Henry Myers and your experience as the leading lady in the film?
Yeah, absolutely. So Redemption was kind of a rare thing for me. It was the first film that I had really been sort of, the woman carrying the movie since Fireproof.
Right.
A lot of my other films have been sort of more ensemble. since then. And so I was really excited to have a role again that I had so much responsibility in. And I actually, it sounds strange to say, but I actually feel like I do best in those roles. Like the more there is at stake, the more responsibility I have, the better my performance tends to be.
That's great.
I work well under pressure, I guess. I don't know, but so I read the script, and it was funny the way that I actually ended up getting the role. I had met with one of the executive producers, Chris Morrow, in Los Angeles, just briefly. And then, nothing had kind of come out of that meeting. And then I had driving through El Paso, Texas, I had met separately with the producer, Chad Gunderson. And I just, kind of thought neither of those meetings would probably ever turn into anything, but it was nice to meet them, And I had just been, it was May of 2012, and I had just been in Africa for several weeks on a mission trip.
Wow.
And my plane landed, and, so I had been like cut off from all technology, nothing, nobody able to reach me, that sort of thing. My plane landed in Atlanta, Georgia, back from Johannesburg. And as soon as I turned my phone on back in the United States, I had like 7 voicemails
Wow.
about this movie, The Redemption, this Western film. And, we're getting really tight on time. Can you please return my call? We want you to play this role. So I think they didn't know that I was out of the country, I guess. But yeah, it was pretty. So at that point, it was such a close call that it was like, I'm going to send you the script. Will you read it on your flight from Atlanta back home? And when you land I was living in Florida at the time, when you land in Florida, call me and tell me if you want to do the movie.
That's great.
So, and then, in an hour and a half plane flight, I had to decide if I wanted to do Redemption. But it was, the script was great. I thought the character was great. I love when writers put in very strong female roles with a lot of levels and layers, and, don't just make them sort of a one, I'm just an emotional creature, and yet I only seem to have one emotion.
Right.
So I liked that about Marilyn. She's strong and yet still very vulnerable, very, very confident.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's how that started. And then, just what a fun project. I mean, we were in Santa Fe, New Mexico for about 4 weeks and shooting on the same sets where they shot 3:10 to Yuma and Cowboys and Aliens, and some great Western films like that. And it was one of those just really special movies where the whole cast was just perfectly put together, and the crew was amazing, and it was a great experience. And we all just had that sense that we were making something that was actually really good. Some movies you just try and get through them, but we were making something that was going to be special. So,
well, it definitely exceeded my expectations. I was really surprised from beginning to end. It was the quality and the content. It was just amazing to us. I was sitting there, I was like, wow. I kept saying, I really love this movie.
Aww.
And so that's saying a lot, because we watch a lot of Christian movies. That's
right.
one of the main things we do constantly. And so this was a real treat for us. Do you think that this is a film that can be used as a tool for leading people to Jesus?
Yeah, I actually do. And that's, that's part of what was appealing to me about it, is sometimes I feel like a lot of Christian films, as much as they might like to be a tool that would lead people to Jesus, sometimes they're just, they're so ingrained in sort of the, the Christianese and that sort of thing, that they become hard for people who aren't, who don't live in the Christian, ghetto or the Christian society. Sometimes they're hard to relate to, because, for people outside of our circle, it's like, people don't talk like that. Nobody says that,
Yes.
So I think sometimes, sometimes Christian films can be used to reach the lost, and sometimes they're used more just to edify the saints,
right?
To encourage other believers. But this one, I do really feel like it presents the gospel in a really non-threatening way. And I feel like you avoid that problem of, well, who talks like that or who acts like that, because it's a different time.
Yes.
It's the old West, when if you were going to own a book, it was going to be the Bible,
Right.
you know. And here's this widow woman alone on her ranch trying to raise her children. So of course she's leaning on faith. She has nothing else to lean on.
Right.
So I just think, because the gospel presentation comes from a woman and her children, it comes across a little bit softer than it might in other films. And then, also just because of the setting, I think it feels natural. It feels relatable. It doesn't feel out of place or preachy. So I really, I find that it could definitely be an excellent tool for that. Because then it's also, the production quality is so good, that you don't feel like you're watching some, campy little low budget movie that was made with an agenda. Like you're being entertained,
Right.
you're
Exactly.
enjoying the story. Yeah.
It seems to reach across for both. It strengthens the faith of the believers, but yet has, like you said, the gospel presentation for non-believers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like the way that they did it. And it was sort of there from beginning to end, just little bits and pieces of the gospel just there in
Mm-hmm.
everyday
Just
life. So it was
really
nice.
into the story. Yeah, there's not that moment in this film where it's like, and now for a 10-minute sermon, we take a break from your regularly scheduled entertainment, so.
It's funny what you mentioned a little bit earlier, though. You mentioned that about within the Christian circles, people are like, well, no one talks like that. But even within the Christian circles, rarely anyone talks like that.
It's true,
So
yeah.
that's the funny thing.
Yeah, for some reason, some writers of Christian film want to put in, I don't know if it's like how we wish we talked
I
or
think so.
how we think we talk, but there's some movies that I've watched that I'm like, I have never said that sentence. I would never say that sentence.
Nor have I ever heard it.
Right, exactly,
Yes,
exactly.
that's
But
true. So
yeah,
I
it,
do.
it points to a real need in Christian film for some very good writing. We need some really good,
True.
strong writers.
That's very true. So, how has your faith led in your decisions during your acting career?
Yeah, well, I've been really lucky. I mean, people ask me all the time, oh, have you had to turn down roles because of your faith and things like that? And I think that because right at the beginning, I was sort of launched out of a cannon as the fireproof girl.
Right.
I've been a little bit protected by that image. And so I really haven't been approached that much to do things that are questionable. I think it's kind of already understood, like, oh, that's not who she is, which I count definitely as a blessing.
Yes.
That I haven't had to make that tough decision of like, oh, here's this huge movie with this huge actor, but it's going to require me to do X, Y, and Z that I'm not comfortable with. I've been approached mostly with really great uplifting stories that people want me to be involved in. But, that being said, I also, even in just approaching the kind of work that I would like to do, when I'm meeting with, my agents or managers out in Los Angeles, and we're talking about, what direction we want to take my career, because I do want to do more mainstream work and not only Christian film.
Right.
But I tell them consistently that I can't ever pull away completely from uplifting or inspirational film, or film without, or television or whatever it is that's got like heavy objectionable content. I can't.
Right.
I can't do that. I have this existing fan base, and why would I pull away from something that they support?
Right.
But B, it's just not who I am. I love positive entertainment. And it's not all that it has to be like rainbows and butterflies, but just that at the end of the day, that there is a positive message that comes out of it, or something that could encourage or challenge somebody, or even just something that's just good, clean, fun family entertainment with a golden retriever in it or whatever.
Yes,
So
definitely.
yeah, definitely facts in. Mm-hmm.
So, are there any other upcoming faith-based projects that you're involved with that you can tell us about?
Yeah, there are. Just in the last year, I've done 3 films that hopefully will be coming out soon. I did a film called Christian Mingle, which is a little romantic comedy based on the website christianmingle.com. So it's kind of,
Nice.
yes, kind of fun and silly. That was directed by Corbin Burnson, who's, really super fun to work with.
Right.
And then just did a movie called Alter Egos. That's another comedy. I'm so glad people are finally doing comedies
Yes.
with, inspirational or Christian film. It's that we need to laugh I was so relieved to see Mom's Night Out. I was like, finally, we can laugh.
Yes.
So that was another little comedy that I did actually with Robert Amaya, who was Javier in the movie Courageous.
Yes.
And so we kept laughing about Fire Courageous finally coming together. And then just finished a little movie called Texas Rain, which is another Western, but modern day about horse raining and things like that. And then I actually, I have a production company now that I founded actually with my co-star in The Redemption of Henry Myers, Drew Waters.
Wow.
He started a production company together from that experience of that movie, just talking about the kind of films that we wanted to do and we wanted to see made and see, more films that reach a broader audience than the Christian audience, but still maintain a Christian worldview, and, have no gratuitous, objectionable content. So we actually are going into production on our first feature later this year, and it's a romance, sort of similar to like a Nicholas Sparks film.
Nice.
So that one will be really fun. Yeah, he's directing that one. He's not acting in it, but it'll be fun to get that behind the camera experience too for once.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. So
yeah, thank you. We'll see a copy.
that would be great. Is there something that you would like to share with the Christian Film Database listeners today that you haven't already told us about?
I guess, ultimately I would say thank you to those who support these kind of films. They can't continue to be made, and more importantly, they can't continue to be made better without the support of fans who will go and see them or buy them on DVD or buy more on DVD and give them away to their friends. Or whatever it is. It's, the only reason that this industry is now having this sort of thrive that it's having is because people are showing up and supporting. And we've seen, you look at the Christian films that came out this year, and God's Not Dead and Heaven is for Real and Mom's Night Out, and the quality on these films. If Fireproof would come out now, it would be laughable compared to the quality of some of these other ones and the star power in them. But, that happens because people came out and supported movies like Fireproof and things like that. So, the more we endorse and support with our checkbooks, these movies, the better the quality can be and the more people can be reached. And so, I would just say thank you for the support, and please continue it for not just Christian films, but for any films that are clean, that are uplifting. That's what we want to see more of overall, just more good, clean entertainment.
It's an excellent point. So, Erin, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. I would like you to close with letting people know how they can learn more about you and your work.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best thing to do is follow me on social media, of course. So I have a Facebook page and a Twitter account. It's all just under Erin Bethea, ErinBethea, and an Instagram. So keep up with me. I'm always posting what I'm working on and what's coming out and what you can look for me in and things like that, as well as, the classic selfies and food photos that everyone else puts up to. So.
Well, you've been listening to CFDb Interviews. For more about CFDB, please check out our website at christianfilmdatabase.com.